Hi everybody, Ben here. I am a writer and it turns out a game maker. I'm making my own TTRPG. That's a tabletop role-playing game. This isn't something I ever expected to do, but it turns out it's a whole lot of fun, and a lot of the ideas that are rolling around in my brain really fit into a TTRPG. I got interested basically by watching a lot of live plays, thinking this really looks like they're having a whole lot of fun together. And I'm in a place where there's not a whole lot to do with a group of other people. Also, I started making more friends online who liked TTRPGs, usually Dungeons and Dragons. And so I went and joined the D&D night at my local coffee shop. Again, a whole lot of fun, but Dungeons and Dragons particularly didn't really scratch that itch for me entirely. I've always been kind of a weird science fiction kind of oriented person. So that's the kind of TTRPG I've been making. Mostly it's been around a single setting. So this is a planet that humanity has settled way, way back. Technology is a bit delayed from our point of view. There's swords and ox carts, horses, people ride horses. But also there are certain cities that are starport cities, where there's the high level of tech which is restricted in how it flows out to the general populace. But the general populace has something that the starport cities don't have, and that is relicts. Now, a relict is physically just a chunk of metal. It's been dug up from something called a relict range, which is the remnant of a war between alien races a long time ago. And these relicts give humans certain abilities. This is the corollary to magic in my world. There's no actual magic, but there is sort of a weirdness that's a little bit beyond what humans can understand. So they've got a relic that can speed healing. That's a pretty basic one. And then there's one where you can, say, look at something or taste something and translate that into a psychic effect to basically impede an opponent in battle. And then certain relicts have synergies. So if you wear two of them at the same time, you get this other effect that the player maybe didn't expect. So that turns out to be very exciting. And I've got to give a shout out to Arcane Angel in Cold Lake. That's a game store. And they're such a generous place, generous with the space in their store. They have daily events. So there might be a Warhammer painting, there might be TTRPG playing, one is Magic the Gathering, or whatever. Basically whatever you in a group want to do with games, you could go there and do it. And I actually got the owner and one employee to help me playtest the game. We've been playtesting this thing, and I'm actually a little nervous about it because we haven't come up against a major problem so far. I was given to understand that there would be major problems. So I'm expecting to come up against a few roadblocks here and there, which is okay. Being a writer, I know how to work through those, hopefully. Again, I'm a beginner at this. Part of the problem may be that I don't know how to playtest. I'm basically just running a campaign with characters that they invented according to my system. Well, character creation at this point takes about 15 minutes. So it's fairly simple, but it seems to work fairly well. Basically what you do is create your character's name and age, and then you roll a die for your past profession, your occupation. And your occupation gives you certain competencies. Competencies are things like if you're in a guild, or if you have guild connections, or if you're especially good at investigation, or you're a quick study, that kind of thing. You also have skill stats, which is a d20 roll, and then you assign 1 plus 3, 1 plus 2, and 1 plus 1 to these stats, and that can be altered based on certain effects, how you feel that day, that kind of thing. And then you have what I call aptitudes, which is just a special skill that your character has that you may not have explored. It may not have anything to do with what you do for a living, It's like when you find you're unexpectedly good at, I don't know, shooting a basket in basketball, something like that. So things like singing, feats of memory, juggling, sports, poetry, climbing, sleight of hand, tracking, that kind of thing is an aptitude. And I have players roll 2 of those. And the thing about aptitudes is that the roll starts with a d4, that's a 4-sided die, and then you succeed or fail a certain number of times on those rolls, and then you graduate to a d6, then a d10, d12, and finally to a d20. So that is a very basic level of what the character creation system is. I don't know how much more I need. I imagine that'll come up in playtesting as well. But things have been happening in these playtests that I've been having a whole lot of fun GMing. I never expected to be a GM, but I'm watching these characters do things. Like, one of my monsters is basically a giant underground ant or scorpion. And these things will jump out at your characters if you get too close. So I threw 2 fairly small examples of these things at my characters, and they dispatched them. Not too bad. Not too bad. And one of the things about this setting is that they have pistols. But when they shoot this pistol a certain number of times, the thing blows up. So it basically turns into a grenade. And you better let go of it after you shoot the last time. So they used these pistols to kill these things, and then using one of them as a grenade. So that leaves them with 1 pistol. And they don't know how many shots they have left. So they come up against something in the next session, which happens underground. They've found a capsule that sort of takes them under the sand. And what they find is a giant example of this undershrike, I call it. And it is an electric undershrike, basically. So when it builds up static charge by moving its joints, and then when it places its foot down, it goes into the sand and creates this fulgurite, but also shocks anything that comes near it. This is an enemy that I feel sure is going to kill these characters. And I'm fine with that because it's a playtest. So this thing comes up against them, and they've got a sword and they've got a knife, and they've got this gun. So it becomes a race between them and this monster. This monster is trying to kill them, and they're trying to get out with this inert body that they've come there to rescue. And the climax of the whole thing happens when the character actually takes the gun, shoves it into the mouth parts of this monster, and shoots until the gun blows up. And this guy he didn't succeed the roll to get his hand out of there, so it blows his hand off. But it also buys them the time to get out of this place. So they find this door which has a magnetic lock. They go through it, drag this unconscious man along with them, and the undershrike's leg comes through trying to grab them, and they manage to close the door until the magnetic lock activates and cuts the leg off. So that's the end of the fight. One of them is nearly dead. So that kind of thing has been happening. It seems to work fairly well. I've been having a whole lot of fun, and it seems like the players have been having a bit of fun as well. So we'll see what happens. The working title is Hilarum. I'm not sure if that's actually going to be the game title. I don't think so. That might just be the main setting. So yeah, experimenting with different kinds of dice rolls, different kinds of effects, making monsters. It's like a creative dream come true for me. And a really good thing, I think, to get the kinks out of my system while I'm working on finishing novels. So, I guess that's that. I'll talk to you guys later. I have other projects that I'm eager to talk about, including a novel that I've just had read through by beta readers for the first time. So, that's pretty exciting for me. I'll see you guys later.